Hi all, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we are taking a look at the Stormcaller rousing Bjorn the Fell-Handed from his sleep to seek his help on a quest to return to Prospero. The events we are looking at today from the Warhammer 40,000 novel Ashes of Prospero. So, spoiler warning to anyone who hasn't read this novel. I definitely recommend this one. It's set after the return of Guilliman, so you get a good look at the current state of the Space Wolves and what they are up to. As always, reading it yourself is the best way to enjoy the novels, and not only that, but we help to support the Great Black Library and Games Workshop. Without them, well, we don't have all these great lore stories to enjoy and discuss. So, if you want a good look at the current state of the galaxy and an epic Space Wolves quest, then what are you waiting for? Okay, so the passage today is set after a previous upload of Logan Grimnar seeking Leman Russ. If you haven't checked that one out, then definitely go listen to that one first. But here the Stormcaller has been dispatched on a quest by the Great Wolf to head to the ruins of Prospero to save the rest of the lost 13th and hopefully find a sign of Russ himself. But with that said, let's jump straight in. The vaults of the ancients buzzed with a rare blend of static and antiquity. To tread the hallowed halls was to approach one of the greatest warriors of Fenris. Surrounded by the thrumming machinery that kept him and his less venerable companions bound to the mortal sphere, Njal could not help but turn his thoughts to the Allfather, enshrined upon the golden throne of terror, sustained by similar yet impossibly grander technologies. An interesting thought by the Stormcaller here. Can you imagine a dreadnought emperor? Now of course we know he's on the throne to keep the Webway portal shut, but damn, it's an interesting thought, isn't it? How similar the technologies of the Golden Throne and these dreadnoughts must be. A broad corridor led to the main vault, a circular space several dozen meters across. In the centre stood the empty shells of the dreadnoughts, armoured walkers twice as tall as the Rune Priest and equally broad. Their massive slad-sided bodies were decked with emblems, runes and wolf pelt totems, painted in the colours they had worn as battle brothers. At the centre, one dreadnought stood slightly apart, the others placed in respect of its importance. Each had a void at the centre where disconnected cables and pipes hung like entrails. Njal chose not to walk to the empty metal carcasses of the war machines, but instead turned to the metal-plated sarcophagi that lined the wall. Like the war engines they were part of, they were also decorated in the Fenrisian manner, adorned with wolf skulls and fang-threaded hangings. Njal quickly found the one he sought. The main plate was set with a wolf skull over two crossed bones, the name of the incumbent on a scroll beneath. A single name, yet so redolent for any that had passed through the Fang. The mere whisper of it conjured sagas of the greatest heroes and battles. Bjorn. I thought that was a very eye-opening description. We always look at these dreadnoughts as walking war machines of destruction, but here we get to see behind the scenes almost, the between the battles. It's almost like a memorial to fallen heroes that we see in our world. A wall lined with sarcophagi of heroes of the Space Wolves chapter, except these heroes live to fight once more. When the Allfather calls for them, they will awaken and bring his wrath to his enemies. And that last line, a single name, yet so redolent for any that had passed through the Fang. The mere whisper of it conjured sagas of the greatest heroes and battles. Bjorn. Such a great piece of writing there. I get inspired at just the thought of standing before him. Njal regarded the panel next to the sarcophagus. The life signs it showed were barely below wakefulness. The incumbent of the two not yet returned to deep stasis since the invasion of Magnus the Red. The Stormcaller hesitated. wondering if it was right to rouse Bjorn again so soon after his recent battles. Njal had no choice. There was no other that knew Prospero as Bjorn knew it. No other space wolf had actually walked the fabled streets of Tiska. He slowly drew up the adjacent lever, powering down the stasis field projected within Bjorn's chamber. Lights cycled through red and amber into green, while within the tomb shell Bjorn rose from slumber. Njal stepped back so he stood before the ocular device above the sarcophagus, showing himself to the ancient warrior. A voice crackled from the speaker grill, slow and deliberate, tainted by artificial modulation but still enriched with a deep timbre. When the Lord of Runes comes to me, I know the situation is dire. Tell me, Stormcaller, why do you break my peace? A great line from Bjorn. It can almost be interpreted as a challenge. Why do you break my peace? The reason needs to be worthy enough to rouse him. And it's quite poignant too. Breaking his peace. He slumbers in peace only to be awoken in times of need and to just keep being thrust onto the battlefield again and again. But of course, he wouldn't have it any other way really. He lives to serve Russ and the Allfather, the Thousand Sons. They have returned so soon? Njal thought he detected a note of surprise in Bjorn's voice. The Cyclops? Not this time, Fell-handed. We go to them. To Prospero. Nothing remains of Prospero, Stormcaller. We broke it upon our wrath. Njal hesitated, unsure what to say of his peculiar condition and the invasive presence of Iskar. The portal maze survived. The old wolf has tasked me with assembling a force to return and break into the labyrinth, to free brothers trapped within. An odd noise emanated from the speaker. It sounded like grinding gears, and Njal realised it was a chuckle. When I hear Old Wolf, I think not of Logan, but another. The first that carried that name, Bolvi Greybeard, Jarl of Drektra, when Prospero burned. It is Bolvi we seek, Fell-handed. He and his old guard have not returned with the others of the 13th Company. When they are bound within the portal maze and cannot escape it. Bjorn said nothing, and Njal checked the biodisplays to ensure that the remnants of his physical body were still conscious within the sarcophagus. All read as normal, and he reminded himself that the Fell-handed had lived, after a fashion, for 10,000 years. He was not one to make hasty comment, though in battle he fought as a young bloodclaw. He existed in a different time frame to mortal warriors, his thought process of a more deliberate tempo. There's probably quite a lot that goes through Bjorn's mind when he remembers back to the days of the heresy, and in particular Prospero. His legion once again being called to bring another legion to heel, where two brother Primarchs fought, and Russ ultimately breaking Magnus. The speaker crackled into life again, Bjorn's tone quiet, almost wistful. I remember pyramids of crystal shattering and a sky of falling fire, a screaming wind and lightning that snarled death. Across the other sea we sailed, seeking the doom of another legion, with the strength of the Allfather at our backs. Can you imagine the cataclysm of a legion breaking like a storm upon the fortress of another, Stormcaller? I cannot. Such fury has not been seen for 10,000 years, Fell-handed. No. Bjorn's voice was subdued, saddened. We broke the Thousand Sons and their world on that day. But something else fractured too. I fought blade to blade against warriors that I had once thought of as kin from a different father. We did the Allfather's bidding, and gladly, but it is not right to disturb the ghosts we laid upon Prospero. You will not come? I will not return to Prospero, Stormcaller. The past is done. So, whereas many in the 40k era might see Prospero as just a fallen world not worthy of respect, to someone such as Bjorn, who was there, who witnessed, as he said, the cataclysm of a legion breaking like a storm upon another, who fought blade to blade against warriors he thought of as kin to a different father. The current Space Marines, they probably can't understand the bond that existed between the legions back at the times of the Great Crusade, and to have that shattered, he feels sadness when he thinks back to that time. The wounds that were caused between the Brotherhood of the Legions, wolves or thousand suns, he wants to leave the ghosts to rest. The Rune Priest knew better than to argue his case. No fresh appeal would sway the fell-handed, and would be disrespectful. Mindful of the argument that had erupted with Ulrich, Njal forced himself to accept the entombed Space Wolf's decision. Very well, fell-handed. Your claw shall be sorely missed. He moved towards the stasis controls, but a mechanical grunt halted him. Leave me awake for a while, Stormcaller. The speaker grill rattled in poor imitation of a sigh. I do not want to return to oblivion just yet. I will inform the Forge Priests when I wish to sleep. Of course, honoured Ancient. One other thing, said Bjorn, even as Njal moved to turn away. Yes, fell-handed? Do not let a rescue mission become a quest for vengeance, or a return to past battlefields. Find the old guard and bring them home. All else is vanity. Njal nodded his acceptance of this advice, though he was unsure of its importance. Clearly, Bjorn had a view on matters different to all, except the Allfather, Wolf King, and traitor Magnus. He took the words to heart and left, leaving the vault of the near dead in silence. And there we have it. Bjorn actually declining to help the Stormcaller on his quest to Prospero. I found it quite interesting that Bjorn can basically just choose if he wants to go on a mission or not. I mean, he is so revered. He can just say if he's willing to go or not. And that's it. Case closed. Even the Stormcaller, one of the highest ranking Space Wolves in the chapter, doesn't say anything about it. That goes to show the respect that Bjorn the Fell-Handed has. This was really one of my favourite passages from the entire novel. It's one of those glimpses we get of the rarely seen lives behind the battlefields, which, to be honest, I enjoy more half the time than the battlefields themselves. Here we get to see where Bjorn the Fell-Handed sleeps, and how well revered a place it is. Not only that, but how he is awoken and just the sheer deference that others have to him. I'd quite like to see Logan Grimnar awakening him and what their interaction would be like. Would the current Great Wolf have a little more say over Bjorn's decision? Would Bjorn be more inclined to agree to the current Great Wolf? Having had that position himself before, of course. Or would Grimnar simply ask like the others? I think he would, out of respect, if nothing else. And how much do I hope when Russ finally returns, we get a scene where Bjorn is awoken, only to be told that Leman Russ has returned. Oh man, I really want to see that. I know it will be on a battlefield somewhere, and Bjorn will hear this wolf howl and be filled with a feeling he hasn't had in 10,000 years. And that will be awesome, no doubt. Man, I'm just getting goosebumps just thinking about it. But if that were to happen here with his awakening, we'd get a real glimpse of his thoughts and feelings. I really think it that way may be even more impactful. But what do you guys think? That's it for today. As always, drop a comment down below. I really enjoy reading all your thoughts and opinions. A huge thank you to all my subscribers. Your support really means a lot to me. It truly does. And if you're new, then please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you guys again real soon.